All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you all can hear and see me. I can't see any of you because my screen's being shared. But if I could just get like a thumbs up or something in the chat, awesome. Thank you, Becca. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to our Coup Connect today. My name is Taylor Ellsworth. Pronouns are she, her, and I'm joining you from my house in Pullman. Brief content warning before I get started. I will be mentioning gender-based violence, so things like domestic violence. So just make sure y'all are taking care of yourselves during this discussion. So today we're going to be talking about community care. Brief background really fast about me. I joined the WSU community in August, moving to Pullman from Arizona. I work within health promotion and I manage our violence prevention programs. So in the past 2 months, some of you may have seen some headlines like this talking about domestic violence rising as people are quarantined inside their homes. So part of my job has been to look at how can we be supporting survivors during this time. And a lot of what I found when I was researching this, I found really applicable to helping anyone during this time. And I think that some common sentiment I've seen shared on social media is that our culture is really changing right now, and we're all doing things to care for one another, whether we're really cognizant of it or not. For example, the fact that all of us are working from home right now and leaving our house less is just caring for our community in general already, for people who might be sick or be at higher risk. Same with when we wear masks or different things when we go to the store. And so I recognize we're already all helping each other, but I just want to give some more tips today on how we can use community care. And so just briefly before I get started, I would love if you all want to share in the chat if you all have been engaged in anything to help each other or look out with one another. If you could just give some examples, that would be great. One thing for me, I know that I don't have a ton of extra income right now, but I do have some more time on my hands. And so I've offered to get groceries for folks and things like that. So if anyone else wants to share ways they've been helping out the community, that'd be great. So what is community care? We've talked a lot about self-care in these chats. There's been some really awesome presenters sharing some tips on how we can care for our physical health, mental health, emotional health. But here's some brief quotes quick about community care. And so basically it's talking about how can we reduce harm to the community by being together. Not necessarily being together in person, right? But being together as a community through this trauma that we're all going through. And so thinking about how can we balance what we need, but also the extra things we have in regards to our privilege and different resources that we might have access to that other people might not. And so I really like these quotes because it's really thinking about more holistically, how can we care for the community as a whole? And so I see you all sharing some really great things in the chat, making masks for other people, sourdough starters, grocery shopping. So I'm going to give some tips really fast about tips I've found from violence prevention that I've been researching. And so a lot of these came about in the research, specifically focused on folks who might be stuck quarantining in a home that's not necessarily safe or might potentially be harmful for folks. But I think that they're relevant for anyone just checking in on their neighbors and their community. And so the first one I have here is checking in with coworkers and neighbors regularly, right? There's not as much chance for us to notice if someone's not coming into the office or is late every day. And so we need to make sure that we're still checking in with coworkers and neighbors regularly, just to offer them a place to kind of vent and also make sure that everything's going okay in their quarantine. The next one is be aware and be vigilant of your neighborhood or apartment complex, wherever you're living. So keeping an eye out, are your neighbors moving out, right? Are they, is their home vacant? Should you be watching out to make sure that, you know, their newspapers thrown away or picked up, things like that. The next one, which I've seen a lot of you talking about in the chat, is dropping off basic necessities. A lot of us are really having some challenging times right now, and going to the store might be a risk for some of us, and some of us might not have the funds to pay for some things that we usually are able to. So thinking about food, toiletries, so volunteering to do this like you all were talking about is really great. The next one is setting up a safe word text system with neighbors or friends who might be at higher risk in their homes. So for example, if you have someone who is potentially worried about being quarantined with their family members or whoever they're with, you could set up a text system where maybe they'll text you, hey, have you gone for your walk today? And that's indicating that things are good, everything's great in the house. And maybe you have another phrase for maybe things aren't so good, and you can maybe have a pre-decided plan on if you receive that text. Should you give them a phone call as a distraction? Should you be notifying authorities or coming over to knock on their door? Thinking about how you can best support people during this time. The next one I love is sharing resources. I think a lot of us are doing this already in our roles with students. We're sharing resources on campus and connecting them with different WSU system-wide things. And so I want to make sure that we're also doing this with the community at widely, right, within Pullman and also system-wide. So thinking about what are some hotlines that people could call, or what are some community nonprofits, where can people get food if they need it? Where can they find someone to pick up groceries? And so what I would love to see right now is if everyone could just share in the chat, if you all have any resources that have been helpful, that you heard about, that might be helpful for people during this time. So for example, I've been a big proponent of ATVP during this time. They have a 24-hour hotline that people can call. I also know there's food banks around that are still operating. So if anyone has any other unique resources that they want to share to let people know, that would be great. And then lastly, if you know someone who might engage in harmful behaviors, maybe ask how you can reach out and help them manage their stress. This is a really stressful time, and we know that with higher stress times, people, tend to have stronger reactions to things, tend to have a harder time managing their emotions. And so reaching out, how can you help people manage their stress and keep their household a safe place? So these are some tips that I found. And I want to hear about everyone's ideas for how we can continue practicing this community care. First, in your neighborhood and within your family or friend group. So if you all can share anything, any tips you might have on how you've been able to check in with neighbors or with family or friends, whether this is via technology or via sitting all out on your street and talking to each other from across the yard. Yes, ATVP is the organization, Alternatives to Violence of the Palouse. And I work for health promotion, if that was the other question. Awesome, so checking in with the mother-in-law to see if she needs groceries. Ooh, information on how to download audiobooks. I love that, right? Thinking about one, resources are really great with books, but also it's a way to kind of battle that boredom we might be feeling. Food Not Bombs, Meals on Sundays. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, everyone. And then I also want us to think about how can we practice community care within our work environment. So how can you check in with your colleagues who you would normally be seeing and having brief conversations with every day? So are you in a team that regularly has meetings? If not, maybe how can you schedule some meetings just to check in on one another? I know something that my team did is one of my coworkers set up an hour at the end of every day where there's just an ongoing Zoom session. And if you want to join just to work with someone else on the camera or check in, then that's always an open forum for that. And then also if you're a supervisor, how can you be checking in with your employees, right? So whether this is student employees that you can be checking in on or other WSU staff and faculty, how can you check in on them? How can you make sure that we are prioritizing each other's mental, emotional, and spiritual health during this time, and being aware that people might have other challenges? So yeah, I see in the chat, we say good morning to the whole team via Teams and good night at the end of the day. I love that. That's cute. I know we set up like a water cooler type team in the Microsoft Teams where we share memes or funny posts, pictures. The other day I shared a video. I put one of those cat videos on my computer and set it on the ground, and it's like a game that the cat plays with. People liked that. Another tip Dawn has: when shopping at Safeway, if you use a card to pay, consider the donation screen. Yeah, that's a super easy way, really convenient. So I just want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, but I know that for me, something that's helped me feel like I have meaning during this time and I'm able to give back is helping others in whatever way you can, whether that's financially, physically, with your time, or just calling to check in on folks. And I think that's been a really good way to practice self-care for myself while helping other people. So if anyone has any other resources, feel free to share them in the chat. This is all I have for y'all today, but next Monday, Jade Wilhelm is going to have a Creating with Canva session, and so you can join just as you did today through the Skillsoft, and they're going to be talking about how to use Canva, which is a software to help make posters, social media posts, for your college or office area, or whatever place you want to share some information. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great day and stay healthy and safe this weekend. And yeah, keep sharing in the chat. Thanks so much, everyone.